Hi guys, how are you all? I hope you all are doing well. So guys, today we are going to start with history, Indian modern history. From the book Spectrum. Okay, so as all of you know, the first two chapters are just introduction and according to me, they are not much important. We can deal with them later, but the main syllabus starts from the third chapter. Okay, so that is chapter number 3, Advent of Europeans in India. Okay, so we are going to start with it. So what are we going to do is, I'm going to read all the things, explain you, and then I'll write only the important points. We are trying to make short note of whatever is written in your Spectrum book. So I'm going to read it to you, explain it to you, and then we are going to note down just the important points over here. And as I note down the points, you can do it along with me, or you can pause the video and then note down the points. Okay, and one more thing, that is my videos may take longer time because I'm going to read word by word to you and explain everything to you. So please do not expect that one chapter will end in 20 minutes, because that is not possible. So we are going to do it in multiple parts. Part 1 of a chapter, for example part 1 of chapter 3, part 2 of chapter 3, and then we are going to make it slow, but we are going to do it in a concrete way. Okay, so let us start. So the first point is Portuguese in India. And I'm going to write only important points. I'm not going to write, because everything is written in the textbook. There is no need to write the same thing again and again. We are just trying to make short notes. Okay, so the quest for and discovery of sea route to India. So if you are having which edition is this, let me check. If you are having the 2017 edition, this red book, if you are having this one, from this book I am following page number 25. Okay, so after the decline of Roman Empire in 7th century, the Arabs had established their domination in Egypt and Persia. So what they are saying, that Roman Empire declined. Okay, what are they saying? That Roman Empire declined in the 17th century and Arabs had established their domination in Egypt and Persia. Okay, direct contact between the Europeans and India declined, and with that, easy accessibility to Indian commodities like spices, calico, silk, and various precious stones that were greatly in demand affected. Okay, so because Roman Empire declined, Arabs after the Roman Empire declined, the Arab had established their domination in Egypt and Persia. And because the Roman Empire declined, what happened? Direct contact between BTN is between India and Europe declined. Okay, and because direct contact between India and Europe declined, what happened? Commodities like spices, calicos and silk precious stone that were greatly in demand affected. Demand of silk, precious stones, spices and calicos declined. Okay, we are trying to write in short form, so these are all the shortcuts. Okay, then what happened? In 1453, Constantinople fell to Ottoman Turks who were on the ascendant. Merchandise from India went to European markets through Arab Muslim intermediaries. The Red Sea trade route was a state monopoly from which Islamic rulers earned tremendous revenue. Now what is happening? Merchandise from India went to Europe through European market through Arab Muslim intermediaries. Okay, so merchandise was going from India to Europe, and who were the middlemen? Arabs. Okay, so merchandise was going from India to Europe, and who were the middlemen? Arab. That means that Arabs used to buy things from merchandise, means goods, things from India, and then they used to keep their profit and then they used to sell it to Europe. Okay, so what happened to this? Then the Red Sea trade route was a state monopoly from which Islamic rulers earned tremendous revenue. So these Islamic rulers, they earned revenue through Red Sea route. The land route to India were also controlled by Arabs. The Arabs controlled land routes to India. Okay. In the circumstances, the Europeans went keen to find direct sea route to India. So now I'll explain you what is happening. Roman Empire is declining, and because Roman Empire is declined and other 2-3 factors are happening that are not much importance, but ultimately what is happening? Direct contact between India and Europe is also declining. Okay, then after that what is happening? Because direct contact between India and Europe is declining, the demand of silk and precious stone, spices and calicos is also declining. And then the Indian merchandise was sold by Arab to European market. That means the Arabs were the middleman. Okay, now, and these Arabs, they control the land routes to India. Now what is happening? That because Constantinople fell to Ottoman Turks, these land routes, they were no more in the monopoly of Islamic ruler, and that is why this direct contact declined, and then these Europeans, they were not able to find Indian goods. Okay, so the Europeans were keen to find direct sea route to India. Okay, now the next point. Okay, so on page number 26, they have given that what all were the circumstances in that point of time. So there is nothing important over here. You can just read out once. what were all the conditions at that point of time in Europe, that is only given briefly. So okay, we'll just read out once in a quick way, but there is no important point over there to note down in your short notes. Okay, so 15th century Europe was gripped by spirit of Renaissance with its call for exploration. At the same time, Europe made great advances in the art of shipbuilding and navigation. Okay, so what they are saying here is that Europe made great advances in shipbuilding and navigation, and that point of time lot of new things were coming up. Renaissance and exploration means people were exploring things, and there were a lot of changes in the existing system. The economic development of many regions of Europe was also progressing rapidly with the expansion of land under cultivation. Okay, so Europe was expanding economically. The introduction of improved plow, scientific crop management such as crop rotation, and increased supply of meat. Prosperity also grew, and with it demand for oriental luxury goods increased. So in this paragraph they are explaining to us about the market situation at that point in Europe. So everything was growing at a good speed. People were earning money, so that is why there was demand for luxury goods. Venice and Geneva, which had earlier prospered through trade in oriental goods, were too small to take on mighty Ottoman Turks or to take up major exploration on their own. Okay, so Venice and Geneva, they used to trade in oriental goods earlier, but because the Ottoman Turk took over, so it was not possible for them to fulfill that demand. Okay, so the North Europeans were ready to aid Portugal and Spain with money and men, even as Genoese were ready to provide cheap and technical knowledge. It is also to be noted that Portugal has assumed the leadership in Christendom's resistance to Islam, even as it has taken on itself the spirit of exploration that has characterized the Genoese. Historians have observed that the idea of finding an ocean route to India had become obsession for Prince Henry of Portugal, who was nicknamed the Navigator. He was keen to find the way to circumvent the Muslim domination of Eastern Mediterranean and all routes that connected to India and Europe. Pope Nicholas V gave Prince Henry a bull in 1454 conferring him the right to navigate the sea to distant shores of Orient, more specifically as far as India, in attempt to find Islamic influence and spread Christian faith. However, Prince Henry died before his dream became reality. So this is such a big paragraph, but I am going to explain you in the short. What they are explaining is this thing itself. Okay, since Arabs were the middlemen and goods were bought by Arabs and then they sold it to Europe, and then because of the political conditions over there, the Arabs now no more were selling the goods to Europe. Arabs were no more trading with Europe. Okay, and even if they were trading in very high margin of profits. So the Europeans were very keen, they liked the Indian goods, so they were very keen to find the way to reach India so that they could surpass the Arabs, and then when they would surpass the Arabs, the intermediary would go off and then they would find a direct sea route to India so that they could trade directly with India. Okay, so in 1497, under Treaty of Tordesillas, the rulers of Portugal and Spain divided the non-Christian world between them by an imaginary line in Atlantic, some 1300 miles west of Cape Verde Island. Under the Treaty of Portugal could claim and occupy everything to the east of line and Spain to everything to the west. Okay, the situation was thus prepared for Portuguese incursions into the water around India. Okay, so they are just explaining the political situation, not important from us, no question has been asked. They are just trying to build a background to tell us the further story. Okay, that is why I'm not noting down the points over here. It was in 1487 the Portuguese navigator Bartolome Dias rounded the Cape of Good Hope in Africa and sailed up to eastern coast. He was well convinced that long sought after that sea route to India has been found, but it was only 10 years later that expedition of Portuguese ships headed out to India in 1497 and arrived in India slightly less than 11 months time in May 1498. So what is now happening is the Prince Henry of Portugal, he was very keen to find a sea route to India so that he could surpass the Arabs or Muslim intermediaries and trade directly with India. Okay, so for this Pope Nicholas V gave him a permission. That is what they have mentioned over there here. Sea to distant shores of India. This was a title given to that permission. And then later on, finally in 1498, the Portuguese are arriving India. So I hope you have noted down this point. Now I'm going to remove this and then we'll start with the Portuguese coming in. Okay, now Portuguese are arriving India. Arrived India on May 1490. Okay, now what is happening next? From trading to ruling. First is Vasco da Gama. Guys, I'm not going to mention all the points as I already told. We'll just mention what is important. Okay, the arrival of 3 ships under Vasco da Gama led by Gujarati pilot named Abdul Majid at Calicut in May 1498 profoundly affected the course of Indian history. So Vasco da Gama, where did he arrive? Arrived at Calicut. On May 1498 we have already written. The Hindu ruler of Calicut, Zamorin Samurthiri, okay, so arrived at Calicut. And who was the ruler of Calicut that time? Ruler of Calicut at the Zamorin, who was also known as Samurthiri. Okay, when Vasco da Gama came, he came to Calicut, and who was the ruler at that time? Samurthiri. However, he had no apprehension as to Europeans' intentions. Okay, Samurthiri had no apprehension of what is happening, what Europeans are going to do, as the prosperity of his kingdom was due to Calicut's position as an entrepot. He accorded friendly reception to Vasco da Gama. Okay, so he was the ruler of Calicut, and Calicut was the important location of his kingdom. That is the reason he gave a very friendly reception to Vasco da Gama. The Arab traders who had good business on Malabar coast were apprehensive and were not keen on Portuguese getting hold over there. Okay, so Arab traders were already trading at that point on the Malabar coast. Okay, and they were not happy that one more trader, that is Portuguese, are coming. Okay, so there is no need to note down all this. Just understand the story and we will note down only the important points. Okay. For centuries, the trading system in Indian Ocean has numerous participants. India, Arabs, Africans from the east coast, Chinese, Japanese among other, but these participants acted according to some tactic rules of conduct and none sought overwhelming dominance, though all were in for profit. Okay. Now what they are saying was that Portuguese were not only the people who came for trading. There were many participants in the trading, and those were Indians, Arabs, Africans, Chinese, Japanese. Okay, so who were all that time? Who were all trading? Indians, Arabs, Chinese, Japanese, Africans. Okay. These were all the participants. These were all trading at that point of time. Okay. So these were all the participants. Or rather than writing participant, you can just note down that they were all trading at that point of time. Sorry. Okay, they were all trading at that point of time in Indian Ocean. But everyone was trading for profit, but no one was trying to dominate the Indian Ocean. Okay, but the Portuguese wanted to dominate. They wanted the monopoly and hugely profitable eastern trade, and they wanted to exclude the Arabs. Okay, because Arabs were acting as intermediaries. They wanted to surpass this middleman system, and they wanted to trade on huge profit margins. Okay, so the Portuguese were wanting to monopolize Now Vasco da Gama stayed in India for 3 months. When he returned to Portugal, he carried back with him rich cargo and sold the merchandise in Europe market at a huge profit. Okay. The importance of direct access to pepper trade was made clear by the fact that elsewhere the Europeans who had to buy through Muslim middlemen would have to spend 10 times as much as same amount of pepper. Okay, now Vasco da Gama returned and he started the pepper trade. Okay, and when he did this pepper trade, he realized that they were at huge loss, because when they were buying the pepper from Muslim middlemen and they were again selling it to the European market, it was 10 times as costly as he had now purchased and then sold to the European market. That means this time he has earned 10 times of profit. Okay. Not surprisingly, other profit-seeking merchants of European nations were also tempted to come back to India and trade directly. So what the Portuguese were looking for? Direct trade. Because they now understood that the Muslim middlemen were taking huge margin of profit, and now if they exclude them and they trade directly with India, they would be able to earn that amount of profit. And when the other people saw Vasco da Gama earning this much of profit, they also had the desire to come to India and earn the same amount of profit. Okay, so a voyage taken by Pedro Alves Cabral to trade for spices, negotiating and establishing a factory at Calicut, where he arrived in September 1500. There was incident of conflict conflict when the Portuguese factory at Calicut were attacked by locals, resulting in death of several Portuguese. In retaliation, Cabral seized number of Arab merchant ships anchored in the harbour and killed 100 of crew, beside confiscating their cargoes and burning ships. Calicut was bombarded by Cabral. Later, Cabral succeeded in making advantageous treaties with the local rulers of Cochin and Kannur. Now, once more, the another person is coming after Vasco da Gama. Vasco da Gama. We are just going to note his name, and we are not going to note whom he fought with and all. He came, he was trading in spices, and he established factories at Calicut and Kannur. Okay, only this much is important. Vasco da Gama once again came to India in 1501. This is all happening in 1500. Okay. Vasco da Gama then again came in 1501. The Zamorin declined to exclude Arab merchants in the favor of Portuguese when Vasco da Gama combined commercial greeds with ferocious hostility and worked vengeance on Arab shipping wherever he could. His rupture with Zamorin thus became total and complete. Vasco da Gama set up trading factory at Kannur. Gradually, Calicut, Kannur and Cochin became important trading centers. Now, when Vasco da Gama is coming back, he is asking Zamorin to exclude the Arab merchants, okay, from the trade, but Zamorin is declining. Okay, then finally he broke off with Zamorin, and then he is setting up his own factory. Vasco da Gama in 1501 came back again and set up factory at Kannur, Calicut and Cochin. 3C. Okay, just remember 3C. Okay, only this much is important. Gradually, under the pretext of protecting the factories and their trading activities, the Portuguese got permission to fortify these centers. Okay, so we are done with the two topics, and now we'll be seeing Francisco de Almeida. And before that, we'll just revise what is happening. Vasco da Gama arrived at Calicut. At that point of time, who was the ruler of Calicut? Zamorin or Samuthiri. And then who were all at that point of time, who were all trading in Indian Ocean? That is Indian, Arabs, Chinese, Japanese, Africans. All these people were doing trade in Indian Ocean, but no one was dominating. Now, when Portuguese came, they were dominating because they wanted to monopolize the eastern trade, and initially what the Portuguese were trading in, they were carrying out pepper trade. Okay, then Pedro Alvarez Cabral is coming. He is doing trade in spice. He is establishing factories at Calicut and Kannur. And then Vasco da Gama is coming back in 1501. He is setting up factory at Kannur, Calicut and Cochin. Okay, only this much is important from exam point of view. Keep the story in mind, but from exam point of view, only this many points are important. Okay, so we now will see Francisco de Almeida.